Let us take you on an epic 21-day adventure with Aurora Expeditions to Antarctica, South Georgia, and the Falkland Islands. This isn't a cruise, of course, but an expedition to explore some of the world's last natural wonders. So let's dig in. Part 1. Antarctica. Not many places in the world can create the emotions of heading off on a grand adventure like saying goodbye to Ushuaia, Argentina. Aboard the Greg Mortimer, we waved goodbye to the southernmost city in the world and made our way down the Beagle Channel towards the Drake Passage and on our way to Antarctica. We had mountains on both sides, endless amounts of seabirds, and even dolphins swimming at the bow of our ship, all surrounded by incredible landscapes and ending with a stunning sunset. While many people fear the Drake Passage, I've come to love it because I know what's waiting for me on the other side of it. We went to bed that night in the calm waters of the Beagle Channel and woke up on the Drake Passage to a soft roll. This meant we had been blessed with the Drake Lake instead of the more famed Drake Shake. This made for a beautiful crossing where we could enjoy the outer decks and the balcony in our room. While crossing the Drake Passage, there's also plenty of official business going on too. We had biosecurity checks, lectures, photography workshops, citizen science projects, and more to pass our time. Near the end of our second day of crossing the Drake Passage, the South Shetland Islands came into view on the horizon. This would be our first sighting of land in the sub-Antarctic before reaching the Antarctic Peninsula. The Southern Ocean is known for its moody weather, and this afternoon it was full on with sun, rain, and snow at times. This inconsistent weather made a potential landing in the South Shetland Islands difficult and unsafe, so instead of getting off the ship, our experienced expedition team made the decision to enjoy a scenic ship cruise near Livingston Island and Half Moon Island before setting off again to sail overnight to the Antarctic Peninsula. The following morning, we woke up to the beauty of Antarctica outside our cabin windows. We had arrived at Cuverville Island, our first stop along the Antarctic Peninsula. Cuverville Island is a small but remarkable island known for its abundant wildlife and stunning scenery. This pristine island is also home to one of the largest colonies of gentoo penguins in the region. The landscape here is dominated by towering glaciers and breathtaking ice cliffs, creating a dramatic backdrop for your wildlife encounters and great photography. After the morning of soaking up Cuverville Island, we enjoyed the amazing views as we sailed onwards to Paradise Harbor. This is one of the most beautiful places you can visit along the Antarctic Peninsula. It's a spectacular place for a Zodiac cruise, as this serene bay surrounds you with towering mountains, glaciers, and floating icebergs, creating a truly surreal atmosphere. We enjoyed a Zodiac cruise before hopping in the water to go snorkeling, just offshore from Brown Station. The snorkeling program is an optional activity offered on select Aurora Expeditions voyages in Antarctica. Of course, we had to do it. By joining the program, we were able to snorkel on every outing from the ship, weather and wildlife permitting, of course. Having done this program for 21 days, we can highly recommend it if you are water babies, like we are. Our first official snorkel in Antarctica was all about the beauty of the blue waters filled with many kinds of ice. We experienced small ice, large ice, and could even climb on top of some pieces. It was magical to be in the water and view the ice from beneath the surface. It's a perspective you often wonder about, but rarely get the chance to experience. We ended our first day in Antarctica with an amazing sunset and amazing reflections. This is one of the highlights of visiting during March. While some shy away from late season visits, it's actually our favorite time to be in Antarctica. The next morning, we were woken up early to sail through the Lemaire Channel, which is one of the most well-known stretches of land along the Antarctic Peninsula. It's often referred to as Kodak Gap, due to its breathtaking beauty along a narrow passage complete with dramatic landscapes. On this trip, we began entering just before first light and sailed slowly to relish the entire narrow channel in an array of unbelievable colors during sunrise. Antarctica gave us a purple sunrise that morning, and we will never forget it. This is one of the advantages of taking a late season trip, as experiencing both sunrise and sunset in Antarctica is truly unique. After our sunrise sail down the Lemaire Channel, we arrived in the Yalour Islands. These rocky outcrops serve as nesting grounds for numerous seabird species, creating a symphony of calls and a flurry of activity. Additionally, roughly 8,000 breeding pairs of Adelie penguins nest on these islands. The surrounding waters offer ideal hunting grounds for leopard seals and crab-eater seals, and are often spotted when visiting these islands. Of course, we saw both during our visit. In the afternoon, we set sail to Petermann Island. This island was named for geographer Auguste Petermann, but gets its notoriety for the 1908 to 1910 French Antarctic expedition that wintered in one of the island's coves. Today, you can still see the letters PP, representing the French expedition ship the Pourquoi Pas, etched into the rocks. On shore, we visited a large colony of 3,000 breeding pairs of gentoos, along with a smaller population of Adelie penguins. But what stole the show was a surprise whale breaching. I was on land taking a photo to capture the gentoo penguins on the rocks, the water, and the beautiful glacier in the background. Suddenly, something black flashed into the frame of my camera, so I just laid on the shutter out of instinct and started telling the people near me that a whale was breaching in the water. By the time I lowered my camera, there was no signs of the whale. Literally nobody believed me. So I started going through my photos, and sure enough, a random humpback whale had breached right into my frame. What a way to end a day in Antarctica. Today we would visit one of the most iconic stops along the Antarctic Peninsula, Port Lockroy. This British base is a historic site that provides a glimpse into the past explorations of Antarctica. It's home to a thriving colony of gentoo penguins, and here you can observe the behavior and interactions up close. While it once served solely as a British research station, today it serves as a museum and a post office. You can visit the meticulously restored buildings and explore the exhibits that showcase the daily life of researchers in the past. At the post office, you can send postcards stamped with unique Antarctic stamps, providing a tangible connection to the remote continent. The island's rich history and stunning wildlife make it one of our favorite stops in Antarctica for understanding more of Antarctica's past and present. Even though our landing started with clear skies, a snowstorm blew in during our visit as we made our way over to Jougla Point to observe Antarctic cormorants and kelp gulls. They both nest in large numbers here, so even on our third visit, we had plenty to see. We also encountered more nesting gentoo penguins, which makes the perfect buffet for brown skuas who swoop overhead with their predatory nature on full display. Even more interesting, Jougla Point offers several almost fully intact whalebone skeletons to observe. The penguins nest among them, offering a unique look at the circle of life in these harsh polar regions. After exploring Jougla Point, we made our way back to the Greg Mortimer to do the polar plunge. I keep telling myself I only need to do this once, but David keeps insisting that if we're lucky enough to keep visiting Antarctica, then dues must be paid. After a busy morning, we made our way to Orne Harbour, a place of extraordinary beauty in Antarctica. This would be the place for a continental landing on the Strip, the moment you get to step foot on the actual continent of Antarctica versus the islands that dot the Antarctic Peninsula. This would be my third time, and David's second time, stepping foot on the continent. It's something we still get excited for, and yes, it's still surreal. What stood out to us about Orne Harbour was the towering mountains and hanging glaciers. The tranquility of this bay is interrupted only by the occasional crackling of distant icebergs, creating a truly magical atmosphere. Not to mention, the water was ripe with leopard seals, humpback whales, and gentoo penguins. Our day here was pure magic, with an afternoon continental landing, followed by a Zodiac cruise and an evening barbecue on the ship decks. I'll never forget standing out on the deck during the barbecue and watching 4 humpback whales bubble net feeding right off the bow of the ship while the sun set a soft orange all around us. I missed dinner that night. The scene was too good to leave. We woke up the next morning to our last day of exploring on the Antarctic Peninsula as the ship arrived at Hydrurga Rocks. Hydrurga Rocks is a small group of rocky islets offering a geological wonderland that was shaped by centuries of glacial activity. We experienced vertical cliffs adorned with vibrant moss and lichen that created a kaleidoscope of colors against the backdrops of ice and snow. During our visit, we were able to observe large numbers of Antarctic fur seals, some Weddell seals, and of course, penguins, along with many species of seabirds. In the afternoon, we made our way to Cierva Cove, our last stop in Antarctica, but I couldn't think of a better place to wrap up our third visit to the Great White Continent. This sheltered bay is surrounded by towering glaciers and snow-capped peaks, creating a landscape straight out of a dream. We even had some amazing leopard seal encounters. They were everywhere, swimming, hunting, hauling out on ice, and we even saw one predating on a penguin. It was full-on trials of life out there. We also enjoyed getting up close and personal with some massive ice, which is always a treat while in Antarctica. As we sailed away from Cierva Cove that day, we took in an amazing sunset that was as fitting end to an absolute mind-blowing week. Leaving the Antarctic Peninsula, we headed back towards the South Shetland Islands. It's always emotional to leave Antarctica, and we stood on our balcony with our eyes fixed on the white shores until they were no longer in view. The next morning, we woke up with the intent on landing in the South Shetland Islands, but the weather had a different idea, and our arrival at Penguin Island was met with strong weather. So, our expedition leader opted to move on towards Elephant Island with the hopes that we could make a landing there. But again, nature rules in this part of the world, and we settled for a scenic cruise along the famed island shores. With Antarctica behind us, we set off across the Scotia Sea to South Georgia. Our trip was booked and organized by the amazing team at Adventure Life. They work closely with many operators in the Antarctica space, including Aurora Expeditions, and are expert trip planners who help streamline the trip planning process and save you hours of time researching the best options. We'd like to give a special thanks to Aurora Expeditions for partnering with us on this outstanding trip of a lifetime. Don't forget to check out the rest of our adventure in Part 2, South Georgia and the Falkland Islands. Until next time, dream, dare, diverge.